So Bruce Leon, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO, baby.
Can't believe I finally made it to Ditch Digger. Okay? That is a mountain to climb. Okay, I'm so happy to be here. Really happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you. You know, we talked about it early on to try and get you on, and we got you now, and we're happy to have you. And you know the routine. Have you listened to any of these shows at all?
Of course.
All right. Well, you know the routine, buddy. We always want to know. You know, we want to educate, and we want to just tell the story, and I think we educate through telling the stories of great business builders, entrepreneurs, and all that. And so we'd like to hear about the upbringing of Bruce Leon, and you know what shaped your mind to the mind you have today. Not just your business mind, because that's a story in itself that we want to hear, but definitely your faith heart and family heart and all the other things that make you who you are. All right, so
amazing.
So to start out, let's hear about right, Q. Let's hear about the upbringing and where it all started.
Yeah, so I'm a native Chicagoan. Actually, done a little bit of family research, 5th generation. So I'm committed to the city, and we're in some interesting times for the city and the state. And I'm not running right now, but we've got to work hard to get it back to where it should be a leadership state again. You know, where people are. We have net people coming versus net people leaving. And that's going to be a big challenge.
That'd be a beautiful change.
But I grew up in the North Shore. My father was an insurance salesman. He came from, kind of a very, on the south side, Hyde Park area, working guy, worked evenings, worked hard. I was always kind of exposed. I can tell you that my father had a stutter and was a very simple guy, but he was a very good salesman, did pretty well. One time we went out to his... the corporate offices of Mass Mutual, out in Springfield, Mass, these insurance company, like a huge office building, and every office was like laced in ivory. And he could see that I was like really impressed. And he had made like salesman of the year, whatever it was. And he could see that I was impressed. They had little bells on the table. I was about 11 years old. Like you when you wanted your food to come, you rang the bell, and these big conference tables and everything. And then he looked over at me, I'll never forget. He goes, "Bruce, I make more than all these vice presidents put together, okay? A good salesman always makes more than the vice president, And that was kind of my lesson growing up, is that be an entrepreneur, be the sales guy, be the guy bringing in the business. Don't get caught up in sort of that corporate nonsense. And I think, that was always sort of my way, ever since I was younger. I had all kinds of things from lawn services to, snow plowing things. And in college, I ran a catering business. So, and by the way, catering is I tell my team a lot of stories I have from the 2 years I ran a clam bake company out in Boston. And catering is a business that you learn a lot about entrepreneurship. I mean, I got, some really classic stories about, because you got to think on your feet, right? You're in the middle of a party. I have one story where basically this company was really kind of a shady little company owned by some very wealthy people. That brother was a little bit off, and they bought him this business so he'd have a living to make. And he would book all these parties in the wintertime. And then, he wasn't organized about how to work, get everything working together. We had a lot of younger kids working these things. So an idea would be, we went out to Gloucester, Mass. Back in those days in the 80s, New England had blue laws. You couldn't buy liquor on Sunday. So we're doing a bake at a park. It was a wedding, Polish wedding, we were late as always, and blah, blah, blah. And we get there, and they're all, where have you been? The wedding party, they came from the church. They're all waiting for us at this beautiful park overlooking the ocean. And the guy says, just set up the bar right away. And I look at my list, and I was too young to do, as 21 was the drinking age. I was too young. I didn't usually do alcohol bakes, and I look at my thing, and he's like, "You do have the alcohol, don't you?" I'm like sweating like a dog, and I said, yeah, it's in the truck right behind me. And I'm like, what am I going to do? There's blue laws. There's nowhere to buy alcohol. I call up the guy. He goes, give him a 10% discount. I go, are you kidding me? They're going to kill me. And, but as I tell my team, you got to think on your feet. So I had cash with me. I literally went to these people, beautiful houses, Gloucester, Mass. It's like Lake Forest. I went to house by house. I said, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I'm at the University of Wisconsin.
Oh, man.
I said, I'm doing a bake over here at the park. It's a wedding. I'm supposed to have alcohol. I have no alcohol. Is there anything I can buy out of your liquor cabinet? These people were like, I feel bad for you. They brought me the best stuff. top of the line, 25-year-old scotch and everything.
Come on.
I came back, and the guy was like looking at it, he goes, oh my God, we didn't order the premium, and he was like hugging me and kissing me, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, when you're working in catering, you got to do these kind of things. We did a bake for the black tie affair for Prudential Insurance downtown at the aquarium in Boston. I get there, and they didn't give me spoons for the soup, and we're setting up the clam chowder, the first course, and the guy says, where's the soup spoons? And I said to my guy, where? He says, well, they didn't pack us any. So what am I going to do? I didn't freak out. I just grabbed the mic and I said, everybody, this is an authentic New England clam bake from the 1700s. I want everybody to pick up their bowl like this and start drinking. I had people drinking. It was coming out their sides of their faces and everything. Black tie affair.
Come on.
Yeah. So, that's the one lesson I teach people in business that I learned is that things don't always go according to plan. I tell my team all the time, you're going out to do an enrollment meeting with employees, make sure if you got hard copies in case the presentation that doesn't work out on the screen. Be ready to ad lib.
Right? Yeah.
Don't freak out and just freeze. And when it happens, think about how you can get yourself out. And that was good training for me. So we had entrepreneur training. The other thing that I think was critical in my life.
Wait, tell me that they're still doing now. They're still doing that same clam bake where they're drinking out of them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still doing it.
It's a tradition there.
Yeah. We got away with it that time. Okay, we got away with it that time. But
probably charged 20% more for that.
They enjoyed it. That was a good. That was in the day. The one that didn't work out so good, we did for Tufts University. You ever heard of Tufts University in Boston? It's a college out there. You've heard of Tufts. So we did their graduation party, and we got out there, and they all had tickets for either chicken or lobster. Lobster tickets were a little more expensive. Not every student could afford it. Typical for this company, they shorted me lobsters, okay? So not only were we late, people were waiting in this long line. They were already drunk because of graduation. And about halfway through, I told them we're out of lobsters, and these people have been waiting. They had lobster tickets. And I got a picture from the Boston Globe the next day. All of our trucks were overturned. It was a riot.
What?
All of our equipment was overturned. That was a tough one.
That
you know what I mean?
Didn't work out so well.
Yeah, that one didn't work out so well. The students I couldn't appease those students. I couldn't just pull lobsters out of the hat, But you learn how to think on your feet the best you can. And the other thing that I think that shaped me a little bit is I lost my mother when I was 19 to suicide. My mother was a really interesting person. She was an entrepreneur herself. She was in kind of her and my father were 8 years apart. So my dad was a World War II veteran. My mother was a hippie from the 60s. They were kind of like mismatched from the beginning. And my mother started a ski shop that had a partner that railroaded her for a lot of money. And so things just didn't go well with her. And
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
but what's really important is I talk about it because I think a person has two choices. I think everybody has stuff in their life that they can look back on was challenging. Mm-hmm. And resiliency is a big thing for me right now. I talk a lot about it. When I interview people, I love to hear people that came out of tough situations because I think that a person that comes out of a tough situation has two choices. Either they're going to sit around and feel bad for themselves the rest of their lives and make that, and they're going to become alcoholics and they're going to become drug abusers and they're going to blame it all on the crappy things that happen to them, or they're going to make a commitment that they're not going to have that for their family and for their things, and they're going to be resilient. And I got to tell you something. My daughters are dating now, and I'll share this with you just because I'm a very transparent guy. We in our community, because I became more religious. I grew up kind of secular, but I became more religious. I married a girl from Canada that was more observant, and I took on, and I love it. I'm very much part of the faith community. But in our community, we kind of our daughters don't meet people at bars. They meet people that they're set up with, or kind of that they go on and they get a little bit of the background of the guy before. And one guy was read to my daughter. Literally, the father was in jail for some kind of real estate fraud. He wasn't a good guy. But they had like 7 kids in the family. This kid was the oldest, and he took it upon himself to actually work hard to help the mother supporting the family. And everybody I talked to, his high school teacher I talked to, they were all like, "This kid is unbelievable."
So here he does his due diligence as his daughter's boyfriend. So.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Wait,
my wife
finish that. You talked to his birthing doctor. Who else you talked to?
We talked to different people. They have like a little bit of resume, and we do a little bit of pre-research. It's just not when you're drinking at the bar, you meet somebody and you don't know who you're meeting. But my wife was like, "Do you really want to get involved?" And I said, "Listen, this kid sounds amazing. Now, we don't know what the deal's going on, but they're dating." But she went out with them and she said, "This kid's really a super kid." So in my viewpoint, people have challenges that they
That's
don't
right.
control. This guy didn't have a control of that.
That's right.
But he decided, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be different. And I'm a big believer in resiliency today. I think we lack some of it among some of the millennials we see because the mother and father, even within our YPO group, they've helicopter parents, they're calling the professors, what are you doing? Giving a test on a Friday. My kid's tired, can't get out of bed. Right. Am I right? And they don't have the gut to really fight off, what's out there.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you one thing from my forum group, and I think I can say this was a long time ago, but we had a guy that, was leveraging a lot he had sold the business, done fairly well, but was leveraging a lot to really hit it big. And he had 3 kids, and we were like asking, what are you risking off for? And he said, well, I want to make sure that I have enough money that my kids never have to worry about anything in their life. And I told him, I said, you have it all wrong. I said, we teach our kids that life is a roller coaster. I can't tell you you're not going to have sick kids, or, you're not going to have issues in a marriage. Things happen, death, you're going to have, what I can teach you is how to be resilient. I'm going to teach you from the time you're younger, we're going to teach you how to be strong so you can fight through these challenges. I can't just throw money at things and make sure your life is all cushy and cozy, you never have to make a tough decision. And I think that's a problem today. We've got this idea out there that, we want everything just to be so easy, and it's not easy. Things are tough out there. So I'm a big fan of resiliency. I can tell you, as Gary knows, I've promoted a president who is a guy from Albania. He's a Muslim from Albania. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I got a Muslim guy working for it. He's a great guy. He literally walked from Albania at 17 years old to get over to this country, and he is the hardest working young man. I've got a Ukrainian woman as my CFO. Both of them came to this country with the idea of give me a chance to make it, give me entrepreneurship, give me a chance to prove myself, and I will work to the bone to get there. And I really find it amazing, and I hope that we are not going down a bad path the way that we are sort of kowtowing to some of our younger generation, and not really giving them the tools in order to be successful, which is a lot about resiliency.
So you're exactly. I mean, we see this in all our businesses, right? We have people, our team members that they're loving parents that just, they're successful in what they do, and one thing they want is their kids not to have to want, right, or not to have those situations that establish their grit. They don't want their kids to go through those challenges. Well, as you and I know, those challenges are what build character, and they build the grit that'll get you through problems in the future. The resiliency you talk about, right? And gosh, if there's anything you could provide, it's love. I mean, and it's free, right? Yeah. We can just provide love and support, tough love at times, because you better have plenty of that if you're going to raise good people, right? But it's not the stuff that matters, and that's something things you figure out in life, hopefully early on in life and not too late in life. But you can look around and see those kids that were given everything. I don't care if it's a middle class parent that busts their butt to give their kid everything they can so they don't have to want for anything. That's a messed up situation, in my opinion, right? I mean, I'm not saying there's not good kids that come out of it, because there are, right? But if you're going to have an adult that can't fend for themselves, it'll come from that environment, 100%. Whether it's from a middle class family or from a multi-billionaire family, right? And so. But like, as you say, how do you teach them resiliency? How do you give them enough love that they can get through anything? Because no matter how tough it gets in the future, they look at things as blessings instead of crutches, because they got that mother, father, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, buddies, friends that love them, right? Yeah. And if you have that, you don't need things. Money and things don't mean a lot in the grand scheme of things, as we find out in life, right?
So one of the things we did is my wife and I were very much on board, is that we introduced them to people we considered heroes. So, for instance, there's a man that we know. He's 88 years old, 13 years old. He's from Hungary, lost his whole family in the Holocaust, And here he was, 13 years old, and he was fending for himself. And we got to know him, and we invite him over, and he's now in an independent living home. My kids go to visit him. They know his story, but we wanted to introduce him to people. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you all know people that, got over, like they lost a leg in a war or something like that, and people that are just amazingly tough people. And we wanted them to experience these people so they can understand, hey, look at what this person made of his life. And this guy happens to be one of the biggest jewelers down on Jewelers Row. He really made it in his life. Never sat around complaining about what he happened. He just figured he came to this country and he was going to make things better for his family and for himself. But, I think part of it is to expose our kids, not just spend all the time at Club Med with everybody else that's in that in that thing, but expose them to people who they can actually talk to and make a relation with, that they can hear those hero stories, right? Because there's real people out there that have done incredible things. And I know Gary, through you, I've met a lot of those people. I know you love meeting those people and hearing those stories. I mean, everybody in my family knows the story of when Gary Rabine's, dad told him, if you don't go to college, you're never going to amount to anything, so.
No. My dad told me I was too effing stupid to go to college.
Okay,
you got that wrong. My dad said, you're too effing stupid to go to college. I didn't go to college, and look at all I got.
You said you had an HR business. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so let's talk about the business.
All right, let's talk about business.
Let's talk about the business. So I started out, I was a benefits consultant. I was... back in the days of HMOs and PPOs, I was somebody that got on the ground floor. I first worked at Blue Cross and started to see back in the early 90s that managed care was a way for companies to save on health and self-funding mechanisms. So I started learning that business and became pretty successful, started my own agency. That agency still exists today.
What year is that?
It's about 31 years, so 89.
Okay.
And I still have some of my employees that have been with me almost 28, 29 years from the beginning of that.
Wow.
And then about 95, 96, I was asked to work on a project for this new concept that was called the PEO, that was called co-employment employee leasing, where you could take companies, because back in those days, companies were starting to get faced with a lot of compliance issues. There was COBRA, there was OBRA, there was OSHA, there was all these issues, and small business guys just were trying to be good. They were trying to be good, make great parking lots, be great food manufacturers. They didn't understand about how you had to have EOC laws and how you had 3 bathrooms for 2 people. So, so we actually made it 35, different. And this concept was not just to be a service provider where, okay, we'll give you HR consulting, but actually take the risk on ourselves. Like we come in and if there's an employee lawsuit, it'll be us. If it's workers' complaint, it'll be us. And I thought this was a great concept. It was a little bit before its time. We were one of the first out of the gate. We started Tandem then in 1997, and it was a complementary business to the benefits consulting business. It was a tougher go in the Midwest because everybody was sort of entrenched in the old way of doing things. And they all had a buddy that did this and a buddy that did that. Our concept was you don't need 19 vendors. You got a payroll guy, you got a workers' comp guy, you got a 401k guy, you got all these different people. And we could do it one way, efficiency, save money, band together. In areas of the country like Silicon Valley, this was becoming very, very hot because those were like brand new companies that were just starting up. So they didn't have like 3 guys at the country club that this buddy did this buddy did that, right? So in the coast and in Florida, where you had a lot of new companies and you had a lot of issues with immigration, this concept started really getting very, very hot. And I was watching it, and we started it, and it was slow grow in the beginning. But, over time, it started to catch on. And now I really believe 3 years ago, at the very end of the Obama administration, we've been fighting for federal recognition of the PEO business. It had been state by state.
What does it stand for, PEO?
A professional employer organization, or the co-employee contract. And there's about 600 of them out there. We're the biggest in Illinois. We're the biggest in the Midwest. We have offices in St. Louis and Milwaukee now. Very focused on the Midwest market. And so we've been trying to get this thing passed where we said, hey, just give us federal recognition, because there's issues like, what if a company is eligible for, R&D credits, or they're in an entrepreneurial zone? Does it go to the PEO or does it go to the company, right? If there's a tax credit, we wanted to go to the company. We're just the administrative employer. And there was always this gray area. So finally, and every time we went to get a bill passed, the unions would block us, because anytime you talk about outsourcing, they get nervous. And we were like, we had nothing to do with the unions. We're just here to make life easier. But the government started realizing, especially after Obamacare, that to get small business to comply was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So they actually went further than we ever imagined. And they actually came up with a design where we would go through this IRS compliance thing, which took us about a year. And literally now we are an IRS certified company. And so that means if you join us and contract with us, we are fully liable. So to the point where we had ICE go to one of our companies that's in the laundry business. And, when ICE walks into a company today, ICE is not like the IRS. The IRS walks into a company, they want them to survive because they want to have somebody pay that debt off, okay? ICE thinks nothing of just getting rid of 90% of the employees immediately, right? And not everybody knows how to check for what's proper documentation, what's not. We get a lot of phone calls when it's already too late. A guy has a food company in Elk Grove Village, and ICE comes in and he begs them, I've got contracts with Whole Foods, I got contract with, let me work this out for the next month or two. They're like, nope, everybody's out.
Wow.
So, but our guy ICE walked in, they said, we're with Tandem, showed them the certificate, they said, oh, we'll walk out. And they walked right out, never have. Then they came to our office to get all the I-9 forms. And of course, we have everything documented. So from the government's perspective, we're actually a good thing for them because they know we're going to be the ones that are going to document all the compliance issues and make sure that it's a safe workplace. Make sure, like right now, there's a new law that's been passed. You have to go through sexual harassment training every year. So we're the ones checking the boxes. We make sure everything is on. So when we used to say to people that you have 20 laws to comply with if you're over 50, and if you're over 100, you have 30. That was 12 years ago. Now it's over 130. Okay, so they keep making these new laws, and they think nothing. And I say this in Springfield. I actually talked to Mr. Madigan, and we had a little bit of a disagreement. I was trying to get workers' comp reform down there. I said, Mr. Madigan, I respect you. I said, listen, I represent 400 Illinois employers, 15,000. I said, workers' comp is cheaper in Wisconsin, Indiana. He said to me point blank, he looked at me, he said, Mr. Leon, with all due respect, I've heard good things about you. I know you're connected to some of the reps here. They tell me you do a lot of things. I appreciate all of it. But he said, let me tell you about workers' comp. A guy's been working construction for 20 years. He's entitled to some time off when he's 55 years old. He's entitled to it. Like, that's the way he made it seem, like his knees are bad. So, let him sit for the next 10 years and watch Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, I said, that's totally not what workers' comp is for that terrible accident that happens when somebody falls and breaks a leg, not just somebody that, has
time off,
just time off for anybody. But, Illinois, we need, so basically, the PEO model, it helps actually the government, it helps people. If they're going to pass all these compliance laws, at least let us help the small, mid-sized businesses that are really focused on their business to be compliant. So, now once the IRS certification thing went through, the big companies like ADP, TriNet, Paycheck, some of the public companies, their stocks did very well after that. And we've seen probably a doubling in the business in the last 2-3 years. So there's a big trend up with it. And I think it's not, people now look at it, they understand the concept. It doesn't mean that they're not your employees. They still work for you. The check still have the company name on it. We don't make decisions within the company. We're just the back office administrative. But that's the way some people think, because they don't have a business mind to think about net profits and margins and all this kind of stuff.
If you can teach every person on your team enterprise value, right, and right, how that affects all of our livelihoods, that would be great. But it's hard to do that,
right?
And that changes, right? Whether it's a multiplier of EBITDA, or it's a multiplier of revenues, or depending what type of business it is, right? It varies. And so again, if you can teach that person the enterprise value and how it affects the enterprise value, then you might have something. Right. But it's not easy to do that, unfortunately, right?
Right. So I think, one of the things that we've just stressed is that we come in, we help with the compliance, we help with the getting better deals on health insurance, better deals on 401k, but more importantly, they get assigned a professional, an HR person with 15, 20 years experience, but that's also a business-minded person who will advise them in decision-making from a perspective of, I understand what margin is. I understand what net profit is. I understand what it is when you do wages versus your cost of goods, okay? What margin is versus this. And that, unfortunately, is lost because a lot of people in those areas aren't really sophisticated to know that stuff.
So to grow, you've grown a lot in the last 30 years, right? I mean, from what to what? How do you measure growth?
We started with 2 people. We're 120 people. We service about 400 clients. We've integrated, and then about 8 years ago, I bought an EAP. EAP is an employee assistance program. I bought it from one of Gary's favorite places. We bought it from my brothers, the monks over here at the hospital where I used to run the program, Alexian Brothers Hospital.
Yeah.
Good guys. They had this EAP that back in the 80s and 90s, hospitals got involved in the EAP business, mostly for alcohol abuse and drug abuse. As a way, they would go to all the big employers, which is sort of mandatory to have an EAP. That's where you can call 24/7 if somebody's going through something, in the family or themselves with psychological, and they can get advice. And so the hospitals did that as a kind of internal referral.
Yeah.
What happened was they came up with this law and they said, hey, if you're a hospital and you run a for-profit business, you could lose your tax exempt status. Well, Lexington Brothers is a $5 billion company. This company was a $3 million company that wasn't really making any money, and it was going to endanger their whole tax-free status. So they came to me and said, we want to get rid of this company. And we talked about it for a while, and there were some issues, but I finally took them on. And so we integrated that company into our offering. So typically they only serviced companies with 1,000 or more employees. Now smaller employers get the benefit, and we've expanded that services to be financial, not just overdose and gambling addiction, but things like just financial advice, because a lot of people today are under financial pressure, and then that affects their productivity. So we offer them financial accountants that will help them. So if an employer sees that somebody's on the phone half the day with their bill collectors and their rent guy, he says, hey, call the AP after work and they'll help you straighten it out. Or if they have legal issues or going through divorce, whatever. So,
cool.
So it's all for us. It's about a productivity thing. It's about giving them benefits that will make it, but that they can be more productive at work and they can deal with this stuff outside of work. So we have the EAP, we have the benefits consulting firm. We wrapped them all into one branded thing under the Tandem HR family. And now we're almost $1 billion in payroll.
Wow.
So we really are managing a fair amount of employees. We're the biggest in Illinois, in the Midwest. It's still got a lot of room to grow. The Midwest is still behind in terms of outsourcing the rest of the country by about a third. We're still about 7-8% of small, mid-sized businesses are outsourcing.
And so in that growth, the growth you've had and the position you're at as a leader in your space, what's your biggest differentiators? What are the things you've done to differentiate yourself from the pack to swim out to that blue ocean away from the shark-infested waters of competition and commoditization?
Yeah, I think we've had a very interesting balance. I've always been a very customer-centric person. That's always been my mantra is, let's make sure we take care of the customer. And we still have that focus, right? I often give all of our customers my business card. I said, I'm available 24/6, not on Saturday, but there's other people that are available. But I say, if we're up against ADP or up against another big company like I say, call up Carlos Rodriguez from ADP, the president, see if he'll give you his business card, see if you can call him at night, So it's always been my thing is that we can do it. Now, that's not always scalable. I understand that as you get into different markets, you have to sort of think. And also I think I've learned that you have to also be employee-centric for your key employees, right? You have to support them. So, every so often you get a customer that's really dragging on our team. They have high turnover. They don't listen. They don't pay overtime. They get involved into they fire people in the elevator without even warning or all that stuff. I mean, and my team is constantly having to fight uphill battles, right? And we've kind of learned that I need at some point to support the employees in those situations. And and the rule is, there's sometimes you just have a customer that just doesn't fit your model. You probably know that in your business, just somebody that's always just ragging you, lying to you so they can get something done for free, you know what I mean? And so I've learned a little bit to sort of listen a little bit more carefully to my key team and know when to say, okay, this is a customer, or I can have a frank conversation and say, hey, I love you as a customer, but here's the rules. And if you can't work with us, you have to go somewhere else for your business. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because my background, I don't know if you know, my background is actually in staffing, right? So some of the things that you're talking about, which, and I actually, I worked with Bank of America previously for like 7-8 years. And that's what I wish they would notice from that perspective, like, because everything for them is high volume. So they want as many people as possible, try to be for productivity, but it never worked that way. And it could have been because they just wanted any and everybody. So, and I actually see that within, entrepreneurs who probably have a little bit, they want productivity, but they just want anybody to try to just do something. What would probably be some things you would tell some startups even now, like, hey, listen, once you're getting some employees on board, or here's some things you should look at once you're getting some things started, so you don't have to shoot yourself in the foot as far like, you know what, they didn't do what I told them to do, so they got to get out, because you can't do that.
100%. I think you have to first define who your ideal customer is, right? So in our situation, I remember we had a guy that came to us once. He was in the trash hauling business. And he said, I hate my employees. I just want you to be there to protect me from lawsuits. You know what I mean? And we're trying to build, Tandem's idea of, everybody's there working as a team. We're supporting the employers and the employees. And we realize over time that those aren't good customers for us, right? So I think first of all, for startups and entrepreneurs is really understand that not every customer is going to be your ideal customer, right? I tell my sales guys, you walk down into a mall, I think for the most part, anybody that's got between 10 and 100 employees for sure should be using an outsourced company, whether it's us or somebody else. And so I think first lesson is not every customer is your ideal customer. Gary probably knows too, some people that just always out there bidding, they're just going to drag you through the meat, right? So you try to find out who those customers are that you can really add value to, that appreciate your service, that want quality and focus on them. Because I'll tell you, interesting story. We brought this guy in to help us. He's got a great book, and his name is leaving my head now, but he's a guy that he tells a story that about a mailman. It's a famous story. The guy's mailman that's been on all the talk shows, Jay Leno and everything like that. But he was living in Denver and just moved into a big house there. And about the first week, the mailman comes by, about a 62-year-old guy, about 4'11". He says, "Mr. So-and-so, can I just interview you for 10 minutes? Really, mailman? Tell me what you do for a job." "What does the mailman want to know that for?" "I'm a public speaker." "Oh, so you're out a lot?" "Yeah, I travel to." "Okay, so 20 days a year, I got to make sure I bundle your packages, put them in the back for your Amazon packages. What are you have a dog, everything." And he found out that this guy was like the most amazing mailman ever. Everybody in the neighborhood says this guy is like, he knows every kid's name. He knows when people are on vacation, and he doesn't get paid a nickel more because the post office just pays everybody like by a set amount. And he's like, what motivates this guy? And he really kind of studied this guy. And this guy just says, "I want to be the greatest mailman. I'm not, looking for extra money." Even the people at the mail office hate this guy because he's making them look bad. You know what I mean? He makes sure everything's done on time and makes sure everybody's mail's put in. So he came to me. I'll never forget this. He sat down with me and he said, "You got some star employees there?" I said, "I got some great ones." He said, "You got some ones that are having problems?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "How much time do you spend with the great ones?" "Not much. They do everything on their own." What about the tougher ones?" "Oh, I spend a lot of time coaching them, they're on performance review and I'm trying to give them a second chance, a third chance." He said, "Studies show that kids that are really, really good kids in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, by the time they get up to 7th, 8th grade, they start misbehaving in class because they realize that the kids that goof off all the time are the kids that get all the attention. And the kids that just sit in the back and do all they're told don't get any attention." And he really made me aware of that. So I now have a thing where I walk around and I actually recognize, we have a little board that recognizes the star. We give out a star employee of the month. And I give out this challah bread. It's a Jewish bread that my daughters make. People love it. Every Friday, because my daughters make a lot of it on Thursday night, make it for some of the poor families in our community. So we have a lot of it. And I walk around and I just say to somebody, "Here, I heard you did something really special this week. Here, and I try to spend more time with those performers because typically they do get lost a little bit.
Yeah,
they're so good. We don't have to, and we do the same thing with customers. We spend a lot of time with the customers that are dragging us down and the customers that are really good. We don't spend enough time with them. So I think part of what I would tell entrepreneurs is identify your good employees, that 80-20 rule, identify your good customers and make sure you're spending the time with them because those are the people that are going to take you to the next level. And it took me a long time to really kind of understand that and learn that. But I think I've kind of learned that from negativity, and I think I'm getting better at that.
Cool.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it is so true, right? I mean, it's the 80-20 rule, as you said. 20% of your team, 20% of your customers are delivering 80% of your value, right?
Yeah.
And we do tend to forget them. You're oiling the squeaky wheel, and you're not doing anything with the performers, which is enough with the performers, I should say, or the customers and teammates that perform. It's awesome. And then also the firing customers. When you're young in business, you want everything and anything because you think you need them all, right? But if you do what you said, identify who you want to be, right? Identify the customers that are the perfect customers, and then spend all your time going after them, not just everybody. That's hard for a person that's new in business, and it was hard for me. I didn't really figure that out for 15 years, probably, right? And then if I look back in that 15 years, I would have made a lot more money and been more, even with less revenues, doing work for the customers that were a better fit, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing more empowering to an employee. I remember there was one guy that, said that an employee didn't sign up for the medical plan, and the employee had approached them, and the guy had, whatever it was, employee had given the guy all the medical forms. He never turned it in, but he said he did. And he wrote an email to, and this guy was constant, these situations were coming up. He sort of always blaming our team. And he wrote the email like, you effing, terrible language, writing it. And you're so incompetent, and I can't believe, how did Bruce even let, and I looked at her and she was afraid that she was going to get fired. She was great. All the other customers. I said, I'm going to send him an email today. We'll give him his 60-day. We have a 60-day notice. He'll get. Her eyes like lit up. Like, really, you're going to take my side? And I said, I know you. This guy is constantly blaming everything on everybody else, right? You probably have that in construction. That you did everything according to. And this guy goes, oh, you didn't do that. Well, you gave us the wrong. It's your fault. But blame guys so we get it redone or redone for free. And when you support that employee, like their eyes just light up. So I've learned that, and that was a lesson that took me a long time, because just like Gary said in the beginning, you kind of look at people and say, hey, they're the customer. Customer's always right. You got to do everything for the customer. Don't go against the customer.
Good point. How many great teammates will you lose in your business, 100%. Right? If you're serving not so great customers.
So you have to take care of your customers, but you have to take care of your employees too. It's a very interesting balance.
You're not going to have any customers without great employees.
I agree. That's the key point, right? If you take good care of your employees, you're going to your customers will be happy also. I agree.
Yeah.
Great point.
And so where do you go from here, Bruce? Your business is growing, continue to grow.
So I think the big thing that I've done, and I've learned this the hard way, is I looked to bring in some succession as we were growing. I wanted to really bring in a team that could, wasn't just, we wanted to get to that level. When you're in the service business, you don't want it to be just about you. You want to get to that level where it's about the company. I brought in 2 teams from the outside against my YPO group's advice and everything. It was not good. You bring in these big company, you bring in these people that work for big corporations, and they don't understand entrepreneurship. They don't understand the culture. They try to change these. We brought in one team that was from a big company. I'll leave the name out there. I brought in 2 people from this company. Actually, 3 people came in, and right away they're like, you know what? We got to spend less time on site with customers. We could do more just by more like a machine. And my people like to go out there and walk around the company. They like to know what's going on. The customers like that. And she was all about just this efficiency model. And I started losing some of my customers, started losing my employees. And so finally, I after twice of this, 2-year contracts, 4 years of this, I finally said, I got 2 really good stars, Salo that I mentioned before, the one that walked across Albania, and Tanya Yanklis, our CFO. They were ready to leave. Actually, one of them had already resigned. I said, no, you're not. I'm getting rid of the team. I'm giving you guys, they were 37 years old. I said, give me a chance. Prove yourself 3 years. And they've just knocked it out of the park. Matter of fact, we got this thing called ricochet employees, which is where employees that left under the old regimes, they see now that you're hiring from within, and the team there, they come back. That's that's such a motivator for your employees when they see somebody come back. So we have about 6 or 7 of them come back. My executive team now, out of the 7, 3 of them are ricochet employees. So the last 3 years have been really good. I've been getting out of the day-to-day. Sal's actually just been approved for YPO, and he truly is a president. I'm letting them do that. That was a transition that I wanted. I felt it was good for the growth. I'm there just for vision. I'm really staying out of letting them make the day-to-day. We opened an office in Milwaukee, and I had to fight everything. Gary, we're detail guys.
Yeah.
I said, you pick the site. I'll go the first day we have our grand opening. I'll see it. They did a beautiful job. I mean, really. It's a perfect location. They didn't overdo it. It's a nice office, but it's not overly nice. And I let them do that, right? And I think you got to do that. I think you got to delegate that. If you want to bring up key teams to do that, you got to let them fail. I often tell the story that Stephen Jobs, who I think was a great entrepreneur, when he first came out with the iPhone, the first iPhone, it's a known fact. His engineer made a small engineering flaw. After they made 1 million phones, they had to recall them all and redesign it. He came in with his resignation to Stephen Jobs. And Stephen Jobs said, why would I fire you now? I just spent $2 million on your education, And I think, I think that's a lesson, right? You got to give people the chance to make mistakes and to do the thing. You can't be watching over them. And I've been, really, and I'm enjoying watching them develop. It's not easy for an entrepreneur to sort of do that. It's very difficult sometimes. You have to bite your tongue. And as I say to somebody, I go into meetings, sometimes I have to take a glass of water. And then when I walk out of the meeting, I swallow it. But that's what you got to do. You got to let them. I let them sit in some of the executive meetings. Salo sits in that chair, and he even yelled at me 2 meetings ago, which is fine. He asked all of us to bring somebody to the meeting. I had forgotten, and it was done in the right way. But if you really want to develop leaders, you got to give them a chance to lead, right? You can't just you can't make them restrained. So that's been a big change for me, and I think it's good for the organization, and it's good for me personally, because now I can focus. I'm a grandfather now. I can focus on other things that I'm involved in, whether it's politics, whether it's things in the community. I'm joining. I want to get on the Economic Council for Illinois. I want to help be there driving things, and I can really feel that a lot of the day-to-day stuff are being handled the way.
So you could take my spot there. I've been wanting to get. I'm involved. I'm on the Economic Council for Illinois, right. And Todd Maish is an awesome guy. Right, the guy who leads it, but I haven't had time lately with a lot of stuff going on.
Right. So
life.
I think that's something that at this stage it's a broader picture. So that was it took a long time to get that right thing. It's not easy to find the right fit. I will tell you that if you can develop people from within, it really is magical. It is magical to watch people that have really grown up in a company. They understand the culture. They understand what made it good. And if I could just stress one thing to entrepreneurs is develop people and let them know that there is a place for them to grow in the company. They don't have to go to some big company in order to grow career-wise. Let them know that you're gonna try to grow from within. It's really a good message.
Sure, vision. Your vision has been a huge part of your growth in your business, right? From the first few employees to be able to tell them where you think you're going and why you want them on board, right? For the opportunity to growth, and from where you're at today, right? How do you and your leaders now talk about where you've been and the opportunities that have been there for this 30 years and where you're going in the future? If you can get your teammates to visualize that. Right, and then communicate with them on how they feel. You feel like you're being challenged. You feel like there's opportunity here. That's probably the biggest challenge we have is communicating with every team member on a consistent enough basis to understand. Do they understand the vision? Do they understand where their opportunities are within the vision? Right, because if they don't, vision doesn't mean anything. You and I could have all the vision in the world, but if they're not understanding it, buying into it, and seeing their place in the vision, it doesn't really matter, right? So I mean, for your business, I know you've done a lot of that, and in the future, you've got to have the confidence in your team that they can do that without you, right? If you're not there, are they expressing the vision, the story as well as you do, right? You feel like you got that covered.
We're working hard on that. Yep. And I just want to make a moment just to thank Gary Rabine, because not only have you personally been an example for me and a light out there, but you are somebody that really cares about people, which is really critical. You love people, you care about them. I watch how you develop people. You have ideas. You don't just talk about ideas. You're not a complainer. Something needs to be fixed. Let's get it fixed. And it's amazing. Everybody that I've sent to work with you, to talk to you, comes back it's almost like a cult, like I'm officially a Rabinite. You know what I mean? I think you should make a term, like a Rabinite. You know what I mean? But it is something I can't explain to people. I say it's infectious, and and it's really something. And it's so funny because you don't personally have the political. You're not doing this because I want to be the governor. You're doing it because you really just care about people and you want to just improve things. And that's actually the most authentic thing in the world, right? Is that it comes out as just somebody that, hey, I'll get this done. And I think that we lack that in the world today because people are very kind of focused on themselves. I met a wealthy guy, a friend of mine, who also did very well. And he told me he wanted to buy an island. I said, that's your like retirement goal, to buy an island? Yeah, I'm on one bridge and I control it, I said, that's not what you got to do. You got to take your money that was given to you from the guy above who gave you an allowance. I said, money's like manure. It's no good if you don't spread it around, right?
I like it.
And I said, you were given this money, make a change in the world. Like, don't just go run off to some island. That's not the way it should be. Get out there and get involved and use your influence and your money and use it in a way to make the world a better place, right? And I think Gary Rabine has just exemplified that in everything that he's done. And I want to just compliment you on that. Whether it's the ditch digger, the ditch digger online presence, or just your infectious way of always being involved in so many things.
Well, I've been selfish in my life like anybody. I've been stupid in my life like anybody, right? But I'm smart enough that I can understand that in this world, we really want to do something that makes a difference, right? It comes with unselfishness. It comes with, how do we serve others to make it a better place? How do we impact the world before we leave this world, right? And I think as we get to be older, we think more that way. I don't know that I was that way when I was a younger guy. I was worried about, raising my family and making sure that I can afford to do all the right things, send them to school and all that. But again, I think there's a point in your life where hopefully you start getting it, and maybe I've started to get it, right?
Yeah.
Listen,
you're going to cure cancer. You're going to
that'd be nice to be part of that.
And how you've handled, the challenges that have come to you and your family. It's amazing. We're all rooting for you. We're all praying for you. And it's a resolve. It's that resiliency. It's that inner strength. It's just something that we just lack out there. It's character,
but something I believe it comes from Bruce, and you got it, and I think I'm beginning to get it as I continue to get older. Is our faith, right?
Right.
If we really love our faith and love our families and love our communities, right, it probably comes from something above us, right? Who we are. It's that the God that we believe in, whoever that God is, right? And if we don't have that in our lives, I'm telling you, when I didn't have that in my life as a younger guy, I enjoyed life. I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was doing things I did, and I was looking for the next fun thing. But I think when you have a serious faith in your life that you believe in, right? Whether you're Jewish, Catholic, Christian, 100%. Episcopalian, Muslim, whatever you are, I think that's the key, right? And if we know
the key thing is whether life has meaning or whether life is just haphazard, right? Yeah. And if you believe life has meaning, then you realize you're just here for in the whole spectrum of the world, you're here for a short period of time, and you can't just let it go by. You have a job to do, and
would you say we're kind of would you say renting the space? What'd you say?
Yeah, we're given an allowance from above,
there you go. You're right.
And we have to spend it, right? It's we're blessed every day. We get up just the way you probably do. We're taught to say a prayer every morning. We wake up. Thank you for giving me another day to be here in this world and to make a difference, right? And we can't just fritter that away and not take advantage of it.
And I want to say one more thing. What you do and what I do nowadays, I didn't always do again, right? Is gratitude you have when you pray at night and when you pray in the morning, right? And if you pray 10 times a day, and with my situation and my wife, I pray a lot more than I've ever prayed in my life. But what do you do? You pray with gratitude and thankfulness, right? And if you can get up every day with gratitude, you're a way more positive person than not even thinking about all the blessings we have in our lives, 100%. Right? And I don't care who you are. Many people grow up in terrible environments with a lot of tough times, right? But you can always find blessings when you look at the people. There's always people that have a lot worse than we do, yep. or anybody, right? And I think if a person can always find the blessings, then I can tell you examples of that, and you can too. People that we know have had the toughest lives you can imagine, and yet they wake up every day talking about their blessings and praying and thanking for their blessings, right? That's amazing, because they end up to be very, very strong-willed people that get through everything. You talk about grit and adversity. These people are the champions, right? They may not be rich, they may not be powerful in the world of this earth, right? But they're powerful in the real world, right?
One thing I teach my kids on a gravestone, I can't tell you when the death date's going to be, but I can. You get this born date and the death date, but the one thing is that dash in the middle.
Yeah.
And what you do with that dash in the middle, that's your challenge.
I love it.
And you better make that dash the best dash you can make that dash, okay?
Yeah.
Whatever that time is, make that dash worth, and that's what I teach them. And I think that if we all could just do that, we could really make this world a better place.
I love it. That's why we're buddies, because I love hanging out with you and listening to the way you think.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get this podcast out to people out there all over the place, because there's a lot of nuggets here, right, Q?
Man, this is really inspiring, buddy.
Wait, the one question I forgot to ask before I want to get, if there's anything you got to say too, throw it in there. But when we always like to ask, right? I believe your story is a great American story, right? And I think that I don't think that there's a finite number of success that can be had out there. I believe that if people look at it as you can do it on your own, because Bruce Leon's successful or Gary Rabine has some success, right? That it's limited now, and I believe that it's abundant in this country of America. We have opportunity like no other country in the world, and the more abundance and success and entrepreneurship and imagination and innovation we have in our country, the more we serve the rest of the world, and the better our country is and the world is, right? So in America, we have these opportunities like no other country to solve problems and to do great things and build businesses. I believe that there's an abundance of that, right? It's not like it's limited. And when I think of you, I think your story is one of those that you built this business. Other people will have followed you and try to mimic you, right? And they're and God bless them, they'll have their success, right? What's your opinion on again your American story? Could you have done it anywhere else? Could you have done this in anywhere else in the world, any country you can think of? And what are the blessings of America in your eyes?
America has that. It has such a vast resource to become a great company. And one thing that I love about my business is we service the small and mid-sized businesses, and I believe those are the businesses that are going to drive this train. It's not the big corporations. Mm-hmm. It's all the small businesses that are out there.
When I deliver my newspapers, mowed the lawns, and I paved driveways, I looked at anybody with a little bit of money. I say, wow, how they do that? Right? They must make $100,000 a year to build that nice house and that nice car. Or golly, I'm doing driveways. I'm making it big at one point, and I'm in my mid-20s. I'm doing driveways on the North Shore. Man, this guy must make $1 million a year to have that house on the lake and those 2 Mercedes in the garage. Must make $1 million a year, right? How do they do that? But that inquisitive nature is what sparked my ability to think differently about how I can grow what I do, right? And I think that it's the admiration for work ethic, admiration for innovation ideas that creates entrepreneurs that I know and myself, right? And you, and that's if we all thought like that instead of, damn, who the heck did they
right.
Screw over, pardon my language, but screw over for that nice house. They must abuse people as far as employees and teammates, right? But boy, that's not usually the case. Usually, as you have served your customers at the highest level you can, the best service, the best product that you could produce, right? Service and serving others is what's created your success.
And give them a reward for taking risk, right? I mean, there has to be a reward for taking risk. It can't be that, 75% taxation, so you work until September 30th until the first dollar you make for yourself. That's just not going to, that's going to stagnate the growth of this country. It's going to stagnate the innovation. It's going to stagnate the development. And we have to be careful. We could make, I see us coming to some very critical junctures in the next 10 or 15 years. And I hope and pray that, when you hear people talk about the word socialism, right? I thought we left that behind, after the collapse of all these, when Animal Farm made that statement that all pigs are equal, except some pigs are more equal than other pigs, we thought we finally got past that whole socialistic model of everything. And now we're hearing it come back again, right? And we have a generation that's starting to think that that's a better way.
Maybe it's okay, right?
And it's absolutely a failed philosophy. We need capitalism. We need entrepreneurship. We need free enterprise. That is what's going to make this country great and continue to be great. And we need to make sure our young people understand that.
100%. You can't have entrepreneurship and all this innovation, all these great things that we teach in schools, right? We do teach entrepreneurship and we do teach innovation, and technology is a beautiful thing, and we teach all these things. But none of them are successful without a free enterprise system.
And right? Thank you, Gary, for all the work you've done with Turning Point and with Charlie, because we finally have another voice on college campuses that at least is presenting a different side of the story.
Yeah, Charlie and his organization are unbelievable. We're having a lot of fun with that. But all right, well, hey, you know what? Again, we didn't get into politics at all, did we here?
Right? We skirted around it. We skirted around it.
Okay,
we kept
good.
it business.
All right, kept it business.
Ditch diggers.
But you know what? Hey, I do believe that culture is built on I should say culture delivers our politics too, right? And the culture we believe in is entrepreneurship and free enterprise, and if that's crushed, our political world does change. And boy, that we talk entrepreneurship, we got to talk a little bit about it, because it's a dangerous world we're going to live in if we're a socialist world. And
Correct.
entrepreneurship dies. And so I like I said, we don't want to go deep in politics. We kind of did here, but you know what? I think in some cases it makes sense.
Right.
That we talk about it and don't
shy
away from it. But Q, go ahead.
Yeah, so I got some amazing Quentin true takeaways, and Bruce, man, you definitely delivered. I'll tell you that. A couple of things for you guys. One, he started off, and the stories were phenomenal. But the first one, a good salesman always makes more. You know, that was actually key. I wrote that down first. This one of the other things you said, and through the stories, when you're an entrepreneur, you must think on your feet. And you gave us some amazing stories to showcase that. You know, going door to door for the liquor, that's phenomenal. Yeah. You know, but what and I see it through your veins, man. But resilience is important for long-term success, and that's huge. And then, of course, when we get into the business piece, you know, two things you said: define who your ideal customer is, identify who your good employees are, and spend more time with them both. And for you guys, to be honest, that's extremely critical because that's really the lifeblood of your business. A couple of things here too. If you want to grow key players, you have to let them fail. That's huge, you know. And then I would agree, and I attested to it. Maybe I'm part of the family, but be a Rabinite. That's extremely imperative to your success, it seems like. But more importantly, and this is for all of you all, and he hit it to it, and I knew exactly what he meant, but make your dash last, for sure. So Bruce, man, that was pretty good. Really, really
Thank
good,
you.
actually.
And great to be here.
And the one thing you mentioned the sales side. You know, Bruce he's an amazing salesman. I've seen him around hundreds of people in a room, and everybody if it's an hour or two, maybe everybody in the room doesn't know him, but 90 of them do out of 100. If he's got an hour and a half, they all know him, and they've all talked to him a couple of times. And it's not like he's like out there in your face. He's just like a gentleman walking around. Hey, how are you? You know, Bruce Leon. Hey, hey, I met you one other time. And then he goes the next guy. I mean, I spend a lot of time. I get caught up because I get on subject, and I'll talk to a person for a whole hour, right? Yeah, Bruce has been around the room twice by that time. Yeah. and so you know, when it comes to understanding relationship building and sales, this guy's the best.
And if you help somebody else, I always tell my sales guys, just help people.
Well, that's what you're always constant. That's what I say. How can I help you?
people.
How can I help you? How can I help you? So no, hey, I love having you.
I remember I had my good friend Yishai Broner, and he called me with an insurance issue. I said, call up Gary Rabine. He'll figure it out, and you solve his problems. And
we're buddies
now a good buddy, and he's on to the whole drone thing, and he's always telling me Gary's amazing. So, but again, it all starts from somebody just calling you. I tell you one last, just. I don't know anything about cars. Gary knows the Teslas. He knows how to. I don't know. I'm not a car guy. Once I got a call from a customer. And he said, I'm in a car showroom, and I want to ask you, should I finance, should I lease, or should I pay cash? And I told somebody later on, I don't know anything about cars. The fact that the guy thought, I'm going to call Bruce Leon and just see what he thinks, that's a good sign. When people think you're just an honest resource, right?
Yes.
I just want to throw something out at you. What do you think? You know what I mean? Then
nice.
You've won people over, right? And I think that's authentic. It's not just, I want you for your sales. I want to care about you. And you ask me if you ask me something, where's the best place to find a nanny for, and I'll try to figure it out for you and help you. Even though I don't make any money with that, right? But I think, and you've been amazing with that too. And what you're doing to solve cancer for people, this is really stuff but if you're authentic with people and helping them, then what goes around comes around. So I think that is part of the whole thing of getting to know people is really trying to be a resource.
Building a network just isn't about yourself. It's about what you can do for others, and in doing stuff for others, you're really feeding yourself, right?
100%.
So.
Anyways, it's been so enjoyable. Thank you guys for inviting me on.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. And we'll see you all next time on Ditch Digger CEO.
See ya.